concise as possible. 30-ish minutes is the goal for day one, and it might run a little long, and that's okay. You can jump off at any time. There is incentive to stick around till the end. I will talk about how there are prizes for participation, and we're going to give you a lot of value here. So let me just let in people from the waiting room and drop in the chat where you're tuning in from, and just make sure you're muted. Sometimes it unmutes for whatever reason. You don't want it recording your screen. All right. So I'm assuming you guys don't want your screen recorded either. For those who are going to watch back on replay, we have 150 some registered, but midweek, midday, a lot of people are going to get the replay, and that's fine. We've got a good crew here today, so we're going to jump in right here, right now. Just use that chat to ask questions as we go through it. We got Pilot Mound, we got Toronto representing, Karen in California, awesome. Winnipeg, the power of the internet, right? It's not just my little 5-mile radius. It extends to as far as Singapore. We have someone registered on this call, so that's pretty cool. All right. So without further ado, let's see. Here we go. We got full screen. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. Quick thumbs up if you do. I don't want to be talking ahead of that. Okay, good. Good sign. We still got people trickling in here, so. Awesome. This is what you're in store for. A little Will Ferrell humor. That's me. Oh, I try to be. I'm certainly not on his level. Well, packing in as much good information as possible. That's the promise. Okay. That's all I can promise today. All right. So just a quick agenda. You may have seen we're doing this 4 straight days, Tuesday through Friday at noon. Today's the best diet to lose fat forever. So I'm going to talk about what I've found and what the research supports as the only things that matter when it comes to your nutrition intake, which I'm sure all of you understand is what drives the fat loss bus. There's certainly other things in the car, and the passenger seat might be strength training, walking in the back seat, sleep, stress, all that stuff, but nutrition really is the first lever to pull. Okay, so we want to start with that, of course. Day 2, the 1-2 punch to pump up your metabolism. One that's more compound interest piece, one's that's more immediate, and more to come, especially wrapping it up on day 4 on Friday, which is really going to give you the full blueprint. All right. So our promise, if you show up as much as possible, certainly for all 4 days, you'll get a blueprint. You'll drop some pounds this week for sure if you just implement what we're sharing. But the real goal and promise is to sift through all the BS I'm sure you've been fed over the years, saving you thousands of hours, certainly, and thousands of dollars. I've made all the mistakes and then some, so that I don't have to make them now, but I can also help others not repeat my mistakes, ideally. All right. So how to win? So there is prizes. We've got a $100 Costco gift card, a 10-day trial to CalFit coaching. That's me, if that wasn't obvious. And then we've got creatine, which is one of my big favorite supplements. Men and women should be on this for various reasons we're not going to get into today, but certainly they all, I'm trying to add people from the wait list, and I'm not a good multitasker. So those are the prizes. How to earn points. You've already got 5 points for being on live. My admin person is checking off your name for being here today, but there are extra incentives for actually taking action. So there's going to be a little mini assignment at the end, just to ensure that you actually implement what we teach you. That gives you 5 points. And if you're willing to share on social media, an additional 5 points. And we're also giving, and some of you already got your points, for just commenting and engaging, knowing that you're actually participating. You get a point for each comment on the live call to a max of 5 a day. So if my math is right, 20 points max per day to a total of 80. If we have a tiebreaker at the end, we have a formula for figuring that out internally. But likely speaking, if you get 80, a full 80 points, I bet you're in the top 3. All right, just a small commitment. Some of these trainings I see people on, they have their camera off, they're on a million different tabs. I hear their phone going off in the background. I mean, for your own sake, try to be committed and participating. Just, I'm asking for 30 minutes, right? And use the chat to ask questions as they come up, because I really want you to get some value out of this, okay? It's not too hard. Oh, it is hard. I mean, our devices are distracting us. I put my phone face down, and this is the only tab I have open on my computer. So if you're here, try your best to really engage. All right. I got to get rid of this waiting room thing. And plus, we're going to draw a winner for a copy of my book. You may see behind me, Undiet Yourself. That'll be an actual physical copy we'll mail out to those who complete the assignment at the end. All right. So I'm saving you years of trial and error. That's really the headspace I came into this training with. I was not a fitness person most of my life. Yeah. In April 2021, or sorry, 2001. Gosh, I'm dating myself. I think I was just graduated high school, so early 20s, 260 pounds, 270 pounds at my worst. And how did I get to this? And it certainly wasn't a straight line to success, but my goal is to parlay the memory chip from my brain into yours on this call and get the most out of it. Introduced to me locally. That's where a lot of my base is, through the Free Press column, through CJOB on weekends. But like you said, there's people from here from California, so my reach goes a little bit beyond my local city, and that's cool too. All right. If I could give that person some advice, that's what we're talking about today, because going back even further than that 20-year-old version of me was, junior high, just made fun of for my weight. And it became a real anchor for me achieving, I don't know, the best version of myself, essentially, right? I just lack confidence because of that. I got the nickname Mitch Tits. This is a family program. I get that. That would be the last time, I swear. Because I had some moves at that time in front of Laidlaw School, which was my junior high. And yeah, if I could go talk to that person, I would definitely try to cut him some slack. He'll figure it out eventually. But if I was to help them in the fitness realm, this is kind of the direction I would go, right? Because rock bottom happened in high school, where this device was new technology at the time. We now know it's not very accurate, but at least it gave us a baseline. So the gym teacher brought this around, had everyone test their body fat percentage, which I don't think would go, nowadays. I don't think they'd do this, but nonetheless had the worst score among the boys in the class, 35% or something a little bit high, and wanted to find a hole to dig in and hide. Unfortunately, a gym floor does not allow for that. So that was sort of like this moment, this sparked, I've got to change, but I did very little for the next couple of years. And it wasn't until I really got clear on what works best that things started to change. For me, it started with a lot of the fad diets that are still around. I think I went on some version of keto way before it was cool and lost some fast weight, gained it back, and kind of got stuck on that merry-go-round. I got really into running and was doing even half marathons, and I was putting up good times, but didn't like how my physique looked. Still had lots of body fat. And then I went to, the whole boot camp thing where certainly I felt like I was working hard. But again, it was one of those scenarios where I didn't really see a return on that investment. Like the change I wanted to see in my physique, in my health, my muscle mass, all these things never really materialized until, and that's what we're going to get into today. All right, so first off, do you believe any of these myths to be true currently or in the past? Just type either A, B, C, D, E, or F in the chat. I'd love to hear it. So the first one, metabolism slows down with age. Carbs are to blame for fat gain. Cardio burns fat. Men have better genes for fat loss. All of the above, or none of the above, frankly. I'm curious where you guys are at. We got lots of A's popping in. Oh, Mandy F. You're an experienced CalFit member, so you understand where we're going with this. E. Okay, all of the above. Oh boy, we're going to smash some beliefs today. Good. So we'll actually be going through these one by one, science-backed. There is some truth, slivers of truth to a few of them, but for the most part, they can be very easily overcome. Okay, so that's the good news. This waiting room is a real challenge. All right. So next up, one more question for you, just to see who's engaged and participating. Does getting fit, as you envision getting fit in your mind, require sacrificing your current lifestyle? Type 1 in the chat for yes, 2 for no. We are rocking. This group is engaged. We got some 2s, we got some 1s. Yeah, so maybe I like that. We've got a mix, maybe 50-50 here. So again, there's probably a middle ground, but my goal is sustainability, and that rarely requires sacrificing all of your life. Certainly Very few aspects, only the aspects that aren't serving you. Now, before we go further, how do you define fitness? Because what people perceive as like healthy and fit is often the other extreme. The pendulum has swung too far. Like there was recent research, huge body of evidence, averaged out, men in the mid-20s in body fat had the best health outcomes. That's certainly not a six-pack, right? That's somewhere in between this pic on the far right and the first one on the left, in the bottom row. So there's a little bit extra fat there, but they have the healthiest outcomes. Whereas the 8% body fat guy is probably juiced up on various substances, looks amazing, internally is aging rapidly, right? And probably has some body dysmorphia and some extreme behaviors to maintain that physique. Whereas women, the numbers were the low 30% body fat, which again is closer to this image on the bottom left. So a little bit of extra subcutaneous fat, not the harmful visceral fat, but a little bit of fluff, right? Which most of us would see as being slightly overweight or not as visually appealing. But that may actually be where we want to spend most of our time. Not to say you can't dial down for a beach vacation, wedding, whatever, times to sprint, times to cruise, but most of the time you should have a little extra fat on you and maintaining a good healthy balance, right? So if you're north of that, certainly you want to get into those ranges I talked about, because there's as bad consequences for being, clinically obese as there are being super ripped, if not more. But consider that as maybe a potentially different perspective. Because this is me, sorry for the underwear pick. That's all I got. I feel my worst when I'm this lean. I think this was like 12, 13% body fat still. Some people maintain this fairly easily. For me personally, 18, 20% is sort of where I feel most dialed in. I sleep better. My mood is better. I'm not short with my kids. There's a lot of cons to being this fit. It looks good in pictures, but other than that, I actually prefer being a little heavier most of the time. So hopefully I've helped you reframe a bit of what you're striving to achieve. It's not, and you can go for shredded, but sustainable is where I tend to plant my flag. I want people to get to a healthy place where their blood work's great, day-to-day energy is great, they sleep well, and overall longevity. I mean, after all, living longer and living well is sort of the goal, right? And there is a sweet spot for most. Type 1 in the chat, is this resonating so far? Or if I'm completely out to lunch, type 2, you want to get shredded? That's cool. That works. That's not usually the people I work for, though. All right, we got some ones. Okay, so the promise of today's call is to challenge you a bit and show you the best diet for fat loss. Okay, because you want to coax fat loss, you don't want to force it. And where I see so many people going wrong is fixating on seeing the scale move weekly, daily, like multiple pounds dropped, and they celebrate every pound. But beneath the surface, you could be losing as much muscle as fat. Your bones could be shrinking. Osteoporosis, we don't want that. That can all happen if you get too aggressive and you just slash calories and do a bunch of cardio. Unfortunately, your body doesn't just throw out the fat, throws out some baby with the bathwater, the muscle and bone that we need to preserve. That's actually as critical to our health long-term as keeping our body fat in a healthy range. Okay, let's move on. It's not letting me move on. Oh, it's because the chat's open. Here we go. All right, so a few problems with cardio. I want to go here first. So a lot of people think I'm just going to get on this running routine and I'll drop a pound a week or so. In order to lose a pound a week, we have to create a 3,500 calorie deficit. So that's 500 calories we're burning daily through exercise. That's no small feat, right? That's an hour run, an hour of vigorous swimming, probably close to an hour of cycling at a fairly high intensity. You get where I'm going with this? Like that's hard for most mere mortals, adults with stressful jobs and responsibilities and kids, to fit in that level of exercise day after day after day without either burning out, getting hurt, or adapting to it. this is a real problem, is your body actually becomes more efficient at these things over time. What might have burned 500 calories the first time you did it could be burning half that or less a month later. It also spikes hunger and down regulates the movement. And we'll talk about that one at length later on in this process. So that's a double whammy to eat back most of what you lost. So the net gain in terms of calorie burn is very small at the end of the day. So we like to think of exercise for all the benefits it has beyond weight loss, because it's not a great tool for weight loss alone. So open to a better way. Type yes in the chat. I know I'm preaching to the choir on some level here, but, or no, if you're going to insist on running for an hour every day. I'd love to hear it. If you type no, you feel free to leave the call, because it's not going to be of value to you the rest of the way. Yes, Jody, Ray, we got Lane, Sherry. Oh boy, someone's drawing on the screen. Cynthia, I'm calling you out. Hopefully that you can delete that. Didn't know that was an option. So here's the better way. Focus on losing fat, building muscle. Appreciate you taking that away. And at least preserving muscle. Okay. It all clicked for me personally when I focused on eating more, but more of the quality foods. Strength training as sort of that foundation to preserve muscle and bone. And I just found that was more fun than running personally. And then I cut the cardio down to just walking my daily steps with a little bit of HIIT for reasons I'll go into later. I like playing hockey too. So I kept in a little bit of it. We got a yeah, baby. We got a yes. Awesome. Good stuff. So first, why make whole foods the base of your diet? This is all going to be pretty redundant, but most of the time, people need to be reminded more than taught new information, because the basics work best. So whole foods makes a whole bit of difference. So there's one research paper that compared a whole food-based sandwich, so nothing processed, compared to a processed sandwich, similar calories, but the whole food sandwich took almost 50% more energy to break down and digest. So that's a real hack right there, right? That the calories, half the calories don't count to the same degree as processed calories. And this showed over time, more calories burned over the course of the day versus the processed meal. Unfortunately, anything that's been processed is kind of broken down into its most pure ingredients, so the body doesn't have to work too hard to digest it. For example, peanut butter versus whole peanuts. The whole peanuts have to be digested and broken down, and there's a lot more energy your body exhausts to do that. Okay. We got some strength training advocates in the chat. I love it. You guys are in the right place. All right. So here's a good visual from the Fitness Chef online. I think he does a bunch of recipes and stuff. So both of these are an example of 1,800 calories a day. One will obviously have you feeling more satisfied. One will just have you fiending for more likely. You'll be pretty full after this meal, but if it's your only meal of the day, it's not going to sustain you for long. Whereas this spread out, more protein overall for sure, but just more filling. And you still have your cookies. You still have a little bit of controlled M&Ms here, and it's still 1,800 calories. You want to think eat more to lose more. If that's one of the takeaways you get from today, I've done my job. Okay. Any questions? Feel free to drop them in the chat. Hopefully it's making sense. More or less, here's why we think of whole foods as the foundation is quality does matter. You're going to get more vitamins, minerals, certainly, which are important for our energy and mood. You'll feel full more of the day at least, and more protein feedings means more muscle retention. Protein synthesis. We won't get too much in the math on that, but it is a critical piece. All right. The problem with processed foods is they're made in a lab from very smart people, some of the smartest people on the planet, to get you to want to consume more and more and more, because you eating more of them sells more of their product. It's just capitalism at its finest, right? Great book called The Dorito Effect. So Doritos are invented to, hit all those sensory nerves in our brain and want us to keep going back for more. It tastes good, right? There's no arguing that point. So you sort of have to moderate, or else you'll lose this battle. Your primitive brain will not win the war if the food's right in front of you and you've cracked open the bag and you expect to somehow seal the bag back up and put it away, right? So let's think 80-20 rule. What that means is 80% of the time you're choosing foods that are good for you, filling, lots of plants and produce and all these proteins, etc. But 20% of the time, I think it's important to have some fun foods. The stuff that is cheating on your diet, and really you can build it into your day. I think this is super critical. This is what harkens back to that sustainability point off the top, right? So what is a fun food of yours? Don't be shy. Share in the chat. Mine is fudge bars. I can have one of those daily. It's only 120 calories. It gives me a sweet treat. Even when I'm dieting, no problem. We've got wine, chocolate. Dark chocolate covered raisins, yes. Pistachios, chips, vodka. Oh boy, that's dangerous. Yeah, so all these things are important to our quality of life, in my opinion. Right? Food is meant to be enjoyed. It's not meant to be overindulged with too often. But the idea is you can have a glass of wine if that's your thing, have a piece or two of chocolate after dinner. You just have to be smart about the quantities. Michelob Ultra, there you go. Someone's paying attention, Trevor. Low carb, low cal. All right. So if you haven't got your numbers in front of you, the big thing to do today is go to mitchcalvert.com/calculator. I don't know if it's clickable for all of you in the chat. I'll have to copy and paste that. Because that's going to actually give you at least a rough idea of where your number should be, whether your goal is fat loss or muscle gain. Because without this, you're winging it. And winging it doesn't get very good results. Okay. So there's a quick formula here if you don't have it in front of you to multiply your body weight by 10 to 12 to give you a calorie range. I'm going to actually go through this right now, though. All right. So if your goal is to lose fat, and in our made up example here, that means your calories have to be at 1,800 daily. Okay. So that means you have 12,600 calories to work with weekly. I hate math, so I'm hoping I'm not going to screw up this formula here. But essentially, I like to have what I call a maintenance day weekly, which is calories just get bumped up. It's not a big full-out cheat day. Make sure there's a distinction there. A cheat day can wipe out 4 good days. But a maintenance day, it's just a nice little reset mentally. So in this case, this fictional example, their maintenance might be 2,400 calories. So on a Saturday, they have 2,400 calories to work with. All right. So to do that and still achieve your goals, assuming fat loss is the focus here, you just have to, minus out that 2,400 from your 12,600 weekly. That gives you remaining balance. So you're shaving off 100 calories a day, your other days, to account for that. Okay. Hopefully the math makes sense so far. Type of 1 in the chat if it is. If I've lost you, my apologies. I'm a fitness coach. I count to 10, not thousands. Okay. Okay, good. We've got some mathematicians here. So this is how it looks at a big picture, although I've kind of changed the values slightly from what I just shared, but a maintenance day, 23 to 2,400, and then at 1,700 to 1,800 the rest of the time. Okay. So with this math, our fictional person would lose a pound of fat per week. Ideally, they're strength training. Ideally, their protein is at a sufficient amount to preserve muscle so that 1 pound is actually fat, not a mix of fat muscle bone, right? But that's it on paper. Got it? Excellent. Good, good, good. So then you would use an app to track your nutrition, right? That's the idea. Okay, so if you're gone through this and you're kind of saying, well, I know all this, you probably do on some level, but if you aren't implementing, you need to look in the mirror, right? And get honest with yourself. So what's missing? So maybe it's accountability, sure. I mean, a lot of people, self-included, do better when someone else is in the mix, observing what you're doing. There's a real science behind the Hawthorne effect, where we actually do way better when we know someone else is watching us, Big Brother, versus just kind of rationalizing on our own. I'll start over Monday. And then you get in that cycle of starting over every Monday for the rest of your life, right? We don't want that. The big takeaway is what gets measured gets managed, though. If you don't know how much you're eating, how much steps you're taking, I like to even boil it down how much sleep you're getting. You're not tracking your workouts. You don't know what weight you used last time, and you're just winging it. That oftentimes, beyond the initial little honeymoon phase, doesn't lead to outcomes. It doesn't lead to results. So you want to get pretty methodical with this stuff if you're serious about it, because once you measure it, it gets managed and you can identify where you're going wrong, what to adjust. That's where the magic happens. Okay. Any questions to this point? We've got a little assignment to do, and then we're going to draw a book. Make sure we're somewhat on time. Okay. I'll put the link in the chat for the homework. Again, you get 5 points for that. And it helps you kind of consolidate what you learned today. So we got a question, Lee. Struggle to hit protein if I stay under calories. How do you manage that if you are planning more calories for the weekend? Yeah, the protein stays the same as the maintenance calories increases. So you just get more carbs and fats to play with on that one day. Now, that will create more of a challenge in the days you're a little lower, right? And you still have to hit the protein. So that's the trade-off. We can get more in depth on that if that didn't answer your question, but hopefully it did on some level. Okay. Devin, I want to call you out. You're under guest, but I know who you are. So I want to talk to someone briefly on this, and you're comfortable with that, I believe. I didn't ask you to do this beforehand, so if you don't want to talk, that's fine. You can.
No clue why it says guest. Yeah, I could rename it. It's all
I don't know
good.
either. All good. There is a way to rename yourself, I think, somewhere, but
Yeah.
I just want to go back to where you were before you started with us, and like what you were skeptical of or what you were struggling with first, because I think that will help people who are on this call who are brand new to my world and kind of confused on where to start.
Where I was at, like mentally and stuff like that at the beginning.
Yeah, sort of. Like I'm sure other people are going to resonate with it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that you said that resonated was like I'll start Monday. Like it was like a never like a always like I'll start later, kind of like an all or nothing, mentality of like I gotta be perfect. Somebody says they can't hear, but I assume everybody else can hear. So anyway, yeah, so just always doing that. And so yeah, I just finally said, enough's enough, needs to start. And obviously, yeah, like there's that initial honeymoon phase, like you said, but you need to figure out like, so what's sustainable to you, and working with you and the Q&A calls and having community and hearing how other people manage stuff and getting ideas of how people do meal planning or meal guides or meal creation or, exercise ideas and stuff like that. The challenges are really fun as well. So anyway, but yeah, all that stuff helps, and you just got to figure out a lot of it. It's like figuring out what works for you, but being in a community of people helps kind of facilitate and support you finding out what works for you in terms of changing habits, changing how you do things, which creates the outcomes that we're looking for.
Yeah, I like how you said that. It's really an evolving process for everyone. Like people only get in the headspace, I'm in diet mode now, I'm going to get my goals, and then what's next? You kind of need this back end exit strategy where it's a bit more lifestyle based, where you can see yourself doing it for the rest of your life, because that's the only way you keep your results. Like, what was a surprising benefit for you from the process that you may not have accounted for, like how it's benefited your life or otherwise to this point?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's improved dramatically recently is just like energy and motivation. Like, so even though I'm actually like sleeping less, but I have more energy because my hormones are at the right level because of strength training and stuff like that, having better quality sleep. But it doesn't, like, again, it's kind of like a snowball effect or like a reverse catch 22 where like you got to start, and like that initial like building of momentum is the more challenging part. But sometimes when you're really excited, like you can kind of scoot through that. But then after that, it kind of just gets like better and better and better as long as you continue to make the disciplined decisions of sticking with it, of doing the right thing, or getting back on track if you get off track or whatever. So yeah, I mean lately, yeah, like previously I was like struggling to get up at 6:30 or something like that to try to get a workout in before I went to work. And now I'm up very consistently before that at the gym working out. That's what I like to do. A lot of other people like to go after work or in the evening. That's fine too. But yeah, and then I have more energy at the end of my day and able to get some reading in and other things that are important to me, more present with my kids. So
Mm-hmm.
got energy to
Absolutely.
play with them and saying yes more often when they say, Daddy, can you come and do X, Y, and Z, especially in the 6, 7, 8 p.m. kind of time frame, or 6 or 7, and when I'm already worn out from the day. So
Yeah. People think fitness takes from that, but it honestly gives you more energy for those moments with your kids where you just have that get up and go. A little more of it anyway. I mean, they're
yeah,
nonstop, but to at least keep pace. Yeah, I think that's one of the huge overlooked benefits for sure, especially as a dad of young kids. Awesome. And you threw up how much weight on the bar yesterday? I saw the photo, it was quite significant.
yeah, I benched 185
Heck
yesterday.
yeah.
So
Strength is
that's
strength is the real secret.
yeah, yeah, I felt really good yesterday for sure doing that. And that was, yeah, did other stuff, 3 sets, 10 push-ups. I mean, try to do 3 sets, 10 push-ups when you're 300 pounds. I'll tell you what, it's not an easy thing. Like if you got like a smaller build, even if you want to drop some weight, it's different doing push-ups at that. But yeah, now I've cut down and increased strength. That's good. So yeah, that was a good day.
Absolutely. Yeah, it gets easier. The first few workouts are always the hardest, no doubt. Thanks for sharing that, Devin. Awesome, guys. So yeah, any questions? Actually, you can unmute yourself now if you have any, but certainly the takeaway today is to complete this assignment. Tomorrow, we're kind of diving in a bit more into the weeds on the real actionable stuff that you can do to increase metabolism. Even if you're over 40, 50, 60, we have 70-year-olds on the call that benefit from this. There's some real secrets to the method, to the madness, and that's what we're going to dive into tomorrow at noon. And oh yeah, did I forget? I'm going to actually draw a name from once I talk to admin who is the most active, and we'll get that book out to someone from that list. And if you're sold on what we offer, I would say maybe it's premature to do. If you're not yet a member, bonus one-on-one workshop with me, workwithmitch.ca is the link if you want to just save a bit of trial and error and time. You can do that. But otherwise, we will be on the call tomorrow through Friday, and hopefully this will be really beneficial to all of you. Alrighty?
Hey, Mitch, before we
Yeah.
take off here, tried sharing your post about the 4-day challenge, but it's private, so it won't allow me to share.
Oh, good to know. And we need you to get your points. So I'm not sure why it's private, but I will change that.
But
Appreciate
it's
that.
not letting me share.
Okay, good to know.
Okay.
That is not the desired effect.
No.
All right, and we'll get replays out for those asking in the chat. It'll go in because you'll get a daily email with kind of a quick lesson and today's action step, and then the replay will be posted in that as well. Consistency makes for small wins. Heck yeah. All right, guys. Well, we kept that as concise as I could. 5 minutes over. Hopefully that was beneficial. We'll see some of you back here tomorrow at noon. Otherwise, take action on the homework. That's going to be the most beneficial next step. And I'll come back directly with some feedback to that. And we'll chat with you guys again tomorrow. Cheers.
Thank you.